Hello and welcome to Practically Effective, a podcast where Will and I discuss effects, props and stunts from various movies. And today we're doing something a little different. This is our first ever special episode and we are discussing several movie spaceships.
Well, are we going to do them in order or are we just going to mash everything together?
That would be odd.
Well,
let me tell you about this spaceship and you just announce something about another spaceship.
Well, you know we're going to forget stuff.
Inevitably, yeah.
Despite my
rigorous
note-taking.
Yeah.
For which this is the first episode that I've done it.
We're 4 episodes in and Will has taken pen to paper.
I have. I can't read them, but they're there. Anyway.
So, we have both chosen 2 spaceships from various movies. Should we just tell them what we're doing? Joe
is doing Moonraker, the best James Bond film.
That's debatable.
And also the Millennium Falcon.
From Star Trek.
The Millennium Falcon from Star Trek, that's right.
And Will, you're doing Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
From Battlestar Galactica.
Yep. The remake, not the original.
And the Milano of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Alright, where do you want to start? Do you want to start? Do you want me to start? I say one of us goes and presents the information.
Presents, just reels off.
Yeah, just read your notes aloud to the class.
Oh, there's some interesting stuff here, actually.
I love how surprised you are by your own notes.
Actually, some of this is quite good.
Get ready, listeners. Yeah, we get mixed up when we're just doing one movie, so
yeah.
It's going to be a right mess with 4.
I think I just have a jet boots written there.
Very comprehensive notes. Alright, this is a really good start, Will.
Start off with Moonraker because it's the best film.
I'm not starting with Moonraker. If I'm starting with Star Wars.
Alright.
Star Wars first.
Go on then.
We start with...
Hit me with some Millennium facts. Some Millennium Falcon facts.
The Millennium Factum. That's the worst joke I've ever done. Alright, well, the year is... This is the wrong page.
Off to a great start, everyone.
The Millennium Falcon.
Yep. Why is it called the Millennium Falcon, Joe?
Because it has 1,000 birds of prey stuffed in the holes. There's a fun fact for you. Alright, so the year was about 1975, probably. George Lucas, he got Star Wars, hasn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did a Star Wars.
And he wanted to make a beautiful film about space, full of spaceships.
And wars in the stars.
So they began designing the Millennium Falcon. I don't know why I have to keep closing my book every time I say a fact.
You need to read out of there.
And the job of designing the Millennium Falcon fell to a man called Joe
Han
Johnston.
Solo.
Fell to a man called Joe Johnston. You ever heard of him?
Yes, I had an engineering teacher called Mr. Johnston.
It wasn't him, probably. Well, Joe Johnston designed and constructed the Millennium Falcon, but then he went on to direct, and he directed the first Captain America movie.
Really?
He directed Jurassic Park 3, and he directed Jumanji as well. But yeah, he's
the only good one is Captain America.
The only good one I wrote down. Jumanji's pretty good.
I've never seen it, so therefore I think it's terrible.
The original design was nothing like the Falcon that we've got at the moment. It was like a long, thin ship, and basically there was a sci-fi TV show called I didn't write down the name of it. I think it was called Space 1999.
Yeah, that is a TV show.
There it is. And the main ship in that is called the Eagle Transporter.
Yeah. And
basically the design for the Falcon looked just like it, coincidentally.
Oh, right, okay.
And they were like, crud, we can't use this ship. It looks just like
exactly the same.
Everyone will think we ripped it off this. So basically they scrapped this design that they'd actually halfway built already. They turned it into the ship that you see right at the beginning of A New Hope.
Oh, the Corvette.
Yes, that's it.
Corvellian Corvette, I think it's called.
There you are.
The one with lots of engines on it.
Yeah, they shoved loads of engines on the back so it didn't look like the Eagle Transporter. And then turned it into that. So there you go. That's the story of that ship, which is not the one I'm talking about.
This is not the one we're talking about today.
Alright, so then they had basically 4 weeks to redesign the Falcon. And to build it as well. I heard a few things on this. I don't know whether any of them are true or not. There's a lot of these fact-listical things online that say the Millennium Falcon was inspired by a burger with a bite out of it.
Right.
I couldn't find.
It kind of looks like that, but now that I think about it, but I don't think it was like inspired by that.
I didn't find any evidence for it. I didn't find any quotes from people. I also heard that George Lucas was a bit like he didn't give much detail on what he wanted it to be like, because he basically just said, "I want it to be like a flying saucer," and then Joe Johnston was like, "Well, that's a bit boring," and then he put the little fronty crabby bits on it, and the satellite dish and the off-center cockpit and all that sort of thing. That was all him, and they built it. I'm skimming over that if I just say they built
it. They built it.
Oh no, the people in the shop nicknamed it the pork burger. I think that's where this rumor
has
come from.
Yeah.
I'm not sure though. I can't confirm that.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. What else can I tell you, Will? So for A New Hope, they built... What did they build? They built a... Okay, some sources said it was a 4-foot model, and some sources said it was a 5-foot model, right? So I'm assuming it's 4 foot wide and 5 foot long.
Could be, yeah.
But they built a 4 foot long Falcon. And
they also built the Millennium Falcon as well.
They had just a massive
They built a 4 foot long Falcon. And then, right, lads, we're done with that. Let's build the spaceship now.
Lucas was like, I said a saucer. You built a bird of prey. Yeah, sadly, the scene where a massive falcon attacks the Millennium Falcon
It got cut out of the film had it.
Left in the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
It's like Gandalf riding a massive eagle. So, yeah, they built a 4 foot model, and to make all the little like details on the outside, which are called greeblies apparently, which is a great word,
right.
But it's the name for all the little tiny bits on the outside of Star Wars ships. They went down to like a local model store and stuck loads of plasticky model bits from like model
random stuff.
Yeah, there was stuff from like model Ferraris and model tanks and all that sort of thing, and they just stuck them on the outside because it makes them look a whole lot bigger.
Yeah, makes it look like there's more stuff going on.
Yeah. So basically, I think they just built the one model, the 4 foot model, 5 foot model, and they waved that about, and that was the
Sorry. I usually turn this off. We are professionals. So yeah, they only built the one model, which is a bit weird because normally they build like a small one and a big one.
They built a few. Well,
What about the close-up shots in, like when it lands, for example, on Mos Eisley, and also in that space wormy thing on episode 5?
Okay, so in episode 4, you don't see it land. Oh wait,
you see it on the ground.
You see it on the ground.
They get on and they're being shot at by stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And even though Han Solo is standing completely still with no cover, they still just miss him for like 10 seconds.
It's their masterful aim.
Yeah.
They actually built half of the Millennium Falcon almost full scale. And when you know it's half, you can very clearly see that it's only half a ship because the satellite dish isn't on it. Right. So they built half a ship. It was a massive thing. And basically, they needed it for 2 sets. They needed it for the Docking Bay 94 on Mos Eisley.
Yeah.
And for the Death Star hangar.
Yeah.
But the model, I call it model, but the ship was too big to move. So they rebuilt the set around it. Which is genius.
But I'm pretty sure there were bits on the Death Star hangar where you can see the whole thing.
There are. So they did some, let me think. They did some matte paintings as well. And also in the special editions, George Lucas put in a CGI ship. So there's a shot in my DVD I've got, there's a shot of it taking off. When the stormtroopers attack, they all get in the ship and then it takes off. That's added in.
Because George Lucas likes to ruin his classic films.
He likes to fiddle about.
He does.
Alright, where was I? What was I saying? I was saying many things. I was talking about models, yes. So, you're right. In Empire Strikes Back, they had a whole lot of more complicated maneuvers because they have the asteroid field chase. So, basically, they had to build another model half the size. And conveniently, down at the model store, all the models they'd used, they sold at like a half size,
version.
Another like one scale down. So they basically made exactly the same thing with the same model parts. They also built a really small one, some of them said it was palm sized, and some of them said it was the size of a nickel.
That's quite a difference.
It's a massive difference. But they built a small one for the bit where they park the Falcon on the side of a Star Destroyer.
Yeah.
They also built a load of interior sets, but just think of a time they're in the Falcon, they built that set basically. One thing that should have been really obvious, but wasn't really obvious to me, is the gun turrets. They built one and then shot it twice.
Yeah,
is really
that's
obvious.
a really obvious thing to do. Yeah.
But I didn't think of it when I watched the movie. I always assumed that there were 2.
It's clearly just the same thing.
Yeah, I know. But it is well shot. They don't shoot them from the same angle. So Han is shot on this angle, which is great for podcasting. This arm gesturing. But they shoot Han from 11 o'clock and Luke from 1 o'clock, so you can't tell that it's exactly the same set. So that's quite smart.
That's quite clever, yeah.
And they also built the cockpit like separate to anything else, so that the crew could wiggle it about.
Oh,
while they're being shot at, which is also very neat.
What about in the newer Star Wars, though? Was it all just CGI?
Yes, basically, for Episode 7, because they still have all the models, they scanned it into the computer and used a CGI, like a computer model.
Yeah.
But they tweaked bits on it to show like the age. And in
Nice.
Return of the Jedi, I think, Lando knocks off the satellite dish when he's flying through the Death Star. So there's something different on there, which has a name. Something that baffles me about Star Wars is that everything has a name.
Why shouldn't it?
Well, like, if I pointed at a part of a ship in any of the other movies we're going to talk about, you probably wouldn't know what it was. But in Star Wars, every single bit has a name and a purpose, and you can dig up the plans, like, to the Falcon, and you can find the 8 previous owners. There's just so much information. Sure.
What about the interiors in Episode 7?
They just built them.
So they tried to copy the original ones, basically.
Exactly as they could. Apparently, slightly off topic, but for Rogue One, when they remade Darth Vader's helmet, they put on, like, the fingerprints that were in the mold from A New Hope.
Oh, wow.
To be as properly authentic. Yes. So for Empire Strikes Back, they built a full-sized, almost full-scale Millennium Falcon.
Oh.
Because there's a whole load of scenes on Hoth, like where they're working on the outside of it, and when they go out in the big space.
The space worm thing.
Does that have a name?
Probably. Let me check.
Probably called Graham.
Let me check. Empire Strikes Back. Space worm. Exogorth. That
Exogorth.
Exogorth, colloquially known as the space slug.
Oh, it's the toothed gastropod. It's silicon-based life form that survived in the vacuum of space. They fed on minerals. Oh my goodness, there's a diagram with its intestines. How long in the movie do we spend with one of these creatures?
Like 10 minutes, I guess, something like that.
And there's an entire article. Oh, there's the history of them.
No, but I think they got elaborated on in the extended universe.
Ah, that's probably true. Alright, back to facts. Alright, so yeah, they built a full-size ship and basically did the same thing again, where they built the set around it.
Mm-hmm. And moved the set around.
Yeah, I don't know whether they planned it, like that they were going to build the sets around it, or whether George Lucas was like, alright, move the Death Star into the set over there. And the guys were like, oh dear, we've made a horrible mistake. There's like 12 of them trying to lift it, carry half the ship, but yeah, I don't know. And I don't think they actually had the full ship for Return of the Jedi. There's a few matte paintings, but I don't think they...
It's only really in the final battle, isn't it?
Yeah, in space it is.
And it's in the hangar bay of that ship. You see it there?
Yes, I think that's when it's a matte painting.
Right.
I honestly find it very difficult to remember what happened in Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
At the beginning, there's a big scene with Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
And at the end, there's a big scene with Ewoks.
Yeah.
And Luke fights his father and throws an Emperor down a drain. And in the middle, something else happens.
Yep.
Presumably, they're just on a road trip, remember most
And
of
Boba Fett.
Yep. He falls down a living drain.
He does, yeah.
Lots of people fall in things to death.
Do.
So I learned the other day that Jabba the Hutt in original Star Wars was just a dude. He's just a guy in a big furry coat. He's
Oh,
Jabba.
yeah, in A New Hope.
Like back, yeah.
Yeah, he's just a guy. But then George Lucas redid it, CGI'd in.
Yeah, very badly.
The big fat slug.
CGI'd
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Massive Slug. But then in Return of the Jedi, Jabba the Hutt is a massive slug.
Yeah.
But like a massive slug puppet guy.
Yeah. So I guess George Lucas changed his mind sometime between.
So there's no in-universe reason why
I
Jabba
don't
the
think
Hutt changes.
so. I don't think so. I think it's just George Lucas being George Lucas. It says here that the scene with him in A New Hope was added in a re-release, in an uncompleted scene.
Oh, I see. So that scene was cut out from the original 77. The guy in the big furry coat.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Ah, that makes more sense. Lucas confesses that people were disappointingly upset about the CGI Jabba's appearance, complaining it looked fake. Lucas dismisses this, stating that that the character will always look fake, since the character is ultimately not real. Good job, George Lucas.
Good job, George Lucas. But yes, it looked like they did a scene with Jabba the Hutt as like a regular guy.
Yeah.
Which they then left out. And then George Lucas put it back in, CGIing over him with the slug.
That makes sense. Alright, we did it.
We did it, guys.
We learned a thing. Wasn't that a fun learning journey?
That was a fun learning experience.
that we all went on together.
Don't say we don't teach you anything on this show.
See, this show can be... What's that word? That
Educational.
nonsense word? No, edutaining. Where something's
not a word.
educational
Don't make that up.
and entertaining.
I've never heard that
I
before.
might have got that from my teaching days.
Edutaining.
It's such a dumb word, Will.
I'm pretty sure it's not even a real word.
It's not a word.
Sure you've made it up.
I didn't.
The government made it up.
Someone who thinks that that's an acceptable thing to say made it up. We're having a biscuit break. Feel free, wherever you are, to get a biscuit and join us in the eating thereof.
Those are nice.
I've never had them before.
We're having Videos Digestive's mini milk chocolate tiffins.
Please tweet at us what you're having during your biscuit break.
Other biscuit manufacturers are available.
Alright, I think I've said most of the things I want to say. So the sounds...
What was it that won an Oscar for sound editing that we kept mocking?
We mock anything that wins an Oscar for sound editing. Okay, there's nothing wrong with winning an Oscar for sound editing. But if you only win an Oscar for sound editing, your movie probably sucks. I think we were just mocking the fact there was a sound editing Oscar. There's also a sound mixing Oscar, I think.
I'm not quite sure what the difference is.
One of them.
Don't say one of them is where you mix sound and the other is where you edit sound.
Well, I was going to make us a much better joke than that. My joke was subtly nuanced, and I don't know what that means.
You know what nuanced means?
It was real good. Anyway, so all the ships in the Star Wars universe, the sounds of the... See, this is a terrible way to say a sentence. I shouldn't do podcasts.
Start again.
So the sounds of all the ships in the Star Wars universe are based on aircraft. So the Falcon is based off an aircraft.
Which one?
So the base sound is a P-51 plane.
Does not sound like a P-51.
No, that's because they mix it well. The sound mixer has done an incredible job. But the hyperspace is a DC-9. But with two audio tracks put out of sync.
Oh,
so
nice.
that they phase. And then also they mixed in the sound of the air conditioning units at the ILM studios. And apparently when it goes past the camera in like hyperspeed, they put in like a thunderclap or a roar of a lion. Just something big for when it goes past. I'm tempted by Tiffins. That sounds like an Ewok movie.
Tempted by Tiffins.
Yes. Caravan of Courage. Tempted by Tiffins.
Tiffins. It does.
Is there anything else you want to ask while I'm fidgeting around in my notes?
What is a Star Wars? Why don't we see any stars fighting each other?
There's a Death Star and a Star Destroyer.
Which I've always thought is weird. That they would name their indestructible, apparently, battle station a Death Star. And then their main battleship is a Star Destroyer.
Yeah. And the Star Destroyers don't destroy any stars.
They don't.
But Star Killer Base does.
Doesn't it just blow up the planets? It doesn't blow... Oh, well, I suppose it uses the stars for energy, doesn't it?
See, so it destroys the stars.
It kills the stars. Yeah. That's the only Star War we have. But also the star doesn't really fight back.
It does, it becomes the star at the end. They blow up the planet and it turns back into a sun.
Does that happen?
Yeah.
How does the planet turn into a sun?
Well, at the end, they destroy they destroy one thing in The Force Awakens, one little box thing, and then the whole planet kind of explodes. But instead of being a traditional explosion,
when a planet explodes, it doesn't become a sun.
Yeah, but instead of
That's
exploding,
not how it works.
It just turns back into a sun.
What do you mean it turns back into a sun? It wasn't a sun to start with.
Or the sun that they sucked out of that sun turns back into a sun.
I don't think that would happen either.
I'm telling you, this is what happens in the film world. I'm not positing a scientific theory here. This is just what happened at the end of episode 7.
I don't remember that anyway.
Yeah, it definitely happened.
How can you tell that kind of explosion from just a regular explosion?
Because a regular explosion goes away, and a sun stays there and bees a sun.
I guess that makes sense. Why is it called the Millennium Falcon, Joe? I want to know.
I read something which I didn't think was true, so I didn't write it down. And I can't remember it.
Oh.
But it was something about it's like it's as fast as a falcon and can last a millennium or something.
I hope it's a lot faster than a falcon.
Well, it can do the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs.
Sure, we're not going over this. We all know parsec is a unit of distance.
So I read a thing about this, right? The theory goes that in a Star Wars, when you warp, you have to do all the calculations first, so you go round the stars and stuff.
Yeah.
So the shortest distance will make you a faster ship, right?
Yeah.
So one theory is that Han Solo is like he goes closer to like supernovas and black holes and stuff than he really should.
Now I've read that as well, but surely that's more of a reflection on Han Solo's piloting abilities and not the ship.
Exactly. That's something I want to bring up. Do you think that the Falcon is the best ship in the Star Wars universe, or do you think that Han Solo is just the best pilot?
I don't think either of those are true.
Because there's a lot of articles when you read things about the Falcon and like, oh, it's the best ship in the world. But everyone in the universe who looks at it is like, it's a complete pile of junk. Yeah. It's not the best
I think
ship.
if Imperial commanders were competent, then they would just destroy it very quickly, to be honest.
Fair enough. I think the most of the skill is... No, that's a bad sentence.
I think most of the success comes from the pilot rather than the
comes
ship.
from Han Solo's skill, yeah.
It's actually all Chewie. Han Solo's just sitting there, he doesn't know what he's doing, he's just pressing buttons. Chewie, meanwhile, is the guy actually flying it.
He's not even the captain.
Yeah.
Chewie's just the captain, but Han is the only one who can speak to the other people.
He just claims to be the captain the whole day. Yes, it's me. Wait, in A New Hope, doesn't Han Solo go and operate one of the gun turrets?
Yes.
Who's flying during that, when he's doing that?
So this is something that I think I asked you before, or I asked someone. Can one person fly the Falcon?
Well, that happens sometimes.
In that scene, Chewie must have been flying it.
But they don't get blown up while Chewie's flying.
That's a really good point. I think Chewie is the secret.
Chewie is the secret hero.
And he didn't even get a medal at the end of A New Hope.
Wait, I'm sure he did.
No, he didn't.
Did he not?
He doesn't. In the scene at the end, Leia gives one to Han and to Luke, and doesn't give one to Chewie. And then at the end, he does a roar and everyone claps. It's
really angry he didn't get his medal.
I think that he's just like, where's my medal?
Where's the medal?
And everyone's like, yeah, well done.
You're right, he doesn't get one. He does not get one.
It's a mess.
What the hell?
So, the Falcon has been cited as an influence on Firefly. You can see the shape apparently in Blade Runner, although I'd never noticed it.
I'm pretty sure in Battlestar Galactica, there's like a couple of Easter eggs, one of which is you can see the Millennium Falcon in the fleet of ships. Yeah. And I think also the Enterprise from Star Trek is also there.
Oh, that's cool.
Random fact.
Also, SpaceX has a rocket called the Falcon.
Yeah, they do.
Named after the Millennium Falcon. So there you go. I think that's everything I have to say about Star Wars Falcon, Millennium Falcon, Han Solo Falcon.
Also, I think the captain from Firefly is kind of modelled after Han Solo.
Yeah? There's a lot of Han Solo-esque characters on there. I'd say Star-Lord is a Han Solo character.
Because Pat mentioned that.
Yeah. Alright. You're up.
Well, as I mentioned to you earlier, there's not actually that much stuff about the ships in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I found that with Moonraker.
Especially because the ships aren't really a focus. Like, they don't... Okay, they spend quite a lot of time on ships, but it's mostly, like, people talking. They happen to be inside a ship at the time. But there's a few things. So, most of the ships were CGI from the outside, but they did make the cockpit of the Milano as a set. And they put it on, like, a rig so they could, like, move it around. And so there's pictures of, like, Chris Pratt, and he's just in this, like, cockpit with a green screen behind him, and he's, like, making angry faces and, like, pretending he's, like, flying. And the cockpit's just, like, slightly tilting to the side.
Oh, that's great. So hang on, was the set dressed from the outside as well as the inside?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So they would film it from the outside with the intention of using that
I
footage.
See. Yes, yeah.
But then apparently they ended up replacing it all with CGI.
Oh, really?
So they filmed it from the outside and they made the exterior look like the ship from the outside.
Yeah.
And then they just replaced it all with CGI anyway and just basically moved the actors' faces into the CGI.
Shots. They just cut out Chris Pratt.
Yeah,
Chris Pratt?
They cut out Chris Pratt.
I need a Timmy.
They cut out Chris Pratt's... Oh, God. That wasn't even delivered that time.
I've broken both of us.
They cut out Chris Pratt's face and shoved it in the CGI shot.
Alright.
It's the same thing with, those mining ships.
Yes.
Thanks, going.
I've forgotten those mining ships. We're on a biscuit break, in case you didn't get that.
Oh, here's a nice fact that I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, in the collector's collection, I guess, there's a space dog that looks a lot like Laika. You know, the first dog to go into space.
Yep.
Apparently, in the comics, there's a character called Cosmo the Space Dog.
Right.
Who is essentially based on Laika. And apparently that dog becomes a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy and is head of security of nowhere.
It's head of security.
Yeah, the head of security.
Does this dog have any powers?
It's a talking dog. I think that's a power already.
I think there is a dog. I don't know if it's Cosmo, but there is one that has like psychic abilities.
I think that is Cosmo, I think.
There we are.
I don't know if it's supposed to be Laika, because Laika didn't survive. But maybe Laika was picked up by the collector.
So, is it that the dog went to space and then got psychic powers? Or is it that the Russians found a psychic dog and were like, ha! Blasted into space! Get rid of this psychic dog!
Yeah, maybe.
And the dog was like, do I get a say in this?
No. Shut up, doggo.
You're the problem here. You don't get a say.
Also, Stanley's cameo was supposed to be in the collector bit.
Really?
He was supposed to be giving the middle finger to the characters as they walk past from the cages. But Disney, being the family-friendly organisation they are,
yeah.
Even though earlier in the film Chris Pratt does a middle finger,
he does. Yeah.
But for some reason they weren't okay with Stan Lee doing the exact same thing. So they moved it to him being that sort of old guy.
Because it would be a random guy doing it instead of the hero
Yeah.
doing it. You'd think that would be better.
Yeah.
Well, in the trailer that came out, they censored that out.
Yeah.
They like put a little box over it and was like warning obscene gesture.
Yeah.
But it's not in the movie.
It's not in the film, no.
No.
I think that was improvised as well, that Chris Pratt doing that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of improvised stuff. There was quite a lot of like, or not even necessarily improvised stuff, like mistakes that got left in.
Really?
So like there's a bit where Chris Pratt is handing the orb. He's handing the orb over to someone. I don't know if he's handing it over to the collector or...
Collector, yeah, and he drops it.
He drops it and picks it up again.
Yep.
And he wasn't supposed to drop it, but he just stayed in character the whole time, so he just kind of left it in.
I would have said that had been intentional. That's the kind of James Gunny thing to do.
No, that was
Where,
he wasn't supposed to drop it.
Because it's supposed to be like a big momentous moment. He's like, what have you got for me? And then Chris Pratt drops it.
Yeah.
Because they do that a few other times where they do like the scene where they all walk out and it's supposed to be them all looking really cool and
they're like yawning.
they're all, Rocket's adjusting his crotch on his trousers and that sort of thing.
Oh, speaking of James Gunn and his madness.
Yes.
If James Gunn thought that a crew member had done particularly well, or like a particularly good job one day, he would award them with a packet of Play-Doh.
Really?
And he gave out over 40 packets of Play-Doh over the course of filming. He just had a bag full of Play-Doh, and he just give it to you if he thought you'd done a good job.
Why?
He said he really likes Play-Doh. Also, kind of weirdly, he said that he likes to smell Play-Doh.
That must have been a very odd interview.
Yeah. I have lots of good facts, but I don't want to just like jam them in.
Alright. What else have you got on the Milano?
I have nothing else on the Milano. Okay. That's literally it.
Why is it called the Milano? Since we love asking why things are called things.
Why is Milano named Milano? Apparently, there was a character in an 80s TV show called Who's the Boss.
The character wasn't called Who's the Boss.
The show was called Who's the Boss. And the character was called Alisa Milano. And there's a tweet from James Gunn saying that yes, the Milano is named after Alisa Milano, who was apparently Peter Quill's childhood crush.
Well, there you are.
There you go.
So on the Why is the ship called that? Will is 1, Joe is
Joe
0.
0.
Alright, what else have you got for me?
I have some stuff about motion capture. I don't know if you want to...
Yeah, alright, I'll take that.
Go into that.
We're off the spaceship topic, but I'm on board.
Yeah, there's nothing on spaceships. So with Rocket and Groot, apparently they tried doing motion capture.
Right.
But they ended up not using it. And the only reason they gave was that they said it didn't fit in with the style of shooting. I'm not entirely sure what they meant by that. But in the end, for Rocket, they used the stuffed raccoon for like lighting references and things.
Yeah.
But they had for Groot, so that the characters had something to interact with, they had someone walk around, and so that they would know where Groot's eyeline was, he basically has this hat that is just Groot's head coming up to here.
I know that Vin Diesel, who voiced Groot, when
he had to say "I am Groot" over 1,000 times.
And when he went in to record his lines, he went in on stilts, so he was 7 feet tall.
I didn't find that. No, that's interesting.
I don't know how that helped his voice performance. He was a bit taller.
Get into character, I guess.
Yeah.
But apparently he needed to say it in like all sorts of slightly different ways.
Yeah.
So he ended up recording it over 1,000 times. I am Groot. I am Groot. I am Groot. Etc.
He also recorded the like some foreign languages as well.
Oh yeah, he did. He recorded it in a whole bunch of foreign languages.
Yeah.
So that they could use his voice rather than someone else's.
Yeah. Apparently there was a Groot script, which instead of saying "I am Groot," had what Groot was actually saying.
Yeah.
In English.
Heard about that.
So that he knew what he was trying to say through the Grooting.
Oh yeah, there's another interesting comment.
Yeah.
I'm like picking plot holes now, basically. At some point, they're like discussing their final plan.
Yep.
Rocket says that he doesn't have too long a lifespan anyway.
Yes.
But how does he know that? Because it's not like there's anyone else. He even says there's no one else like him.
He does.
So how does he know he doesn't? Like, it's true that a regular raccoon doesn't have a very long lifespan.
He doesn't know what a raccoon is.
He doesn't even know what a raccoon is, and how does he know?
That's a really good
what
question.
His lifespan is?
I imagine that, like, what is he? He's a genetic. He's
genetically modified, and he's got like all bionics and stuff as well.
I imagine they wouldn't live long.
Well, it depends, because like potentially bionics could make you live longer.
Yeah, I assume that because this is illegal, it probably doesn't.
I don't think bionics is generally illegal. There's lots of people. There's a guy with a bionic leg and stuff.
There's also a guy with like
prosthetic leg. Yeah,
a bionic guy. But don't they say it's illegal?
He just said it was illegal genetic modification.
But isn't it on a lower life form?
Yeah.
Because they're not. I think maybe you're not supposed to do it on animals, but you can do it on yourself. It's
probably. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's like you're allowed to do it up to a certain point.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to go beyond.
Do you want?
Yes.
I don't know whether I heard this as a rumor or as someone suggested it as an idea or something, but that maybe in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 we find out the place that Rocket is from, and one of the villains, not necessarily the main villain, but a side villain in it, is the guy who made Rocket. Do you care about finding out where he came from and how he was made? And
yes, I actually think that would be very interesting.
Yeah, I like that we didn't have to find out in the first movie. He can just be.
Yeah.
We don't have to get an origin for all the characters.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I think it would be quite interesting to explore. See what else this guy.
See what else he's made. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he made the space dog.
Maybe. Yeah.
Anything else?
I mean, I just have random facts I can spout. For example, Thanos. Have you seen Apocalypse Now?
I haven't. No.
Well, apparently the character of Thanos is loosely based off a character from that called Colonel Kurtz, who's like
Thanos
kind of goes a bit insane.
He's big and purple, right?
He's an American special forces guy.
Yeah.
And he was sent to Vietnam, and he basically goes a bit psychotic.
Okay.
And then they send a couple of other people. The Americans send a couple of other people to kill him.
Okay.
Because he goes a bit nuts.
There's all these good movies I haven't seen.
Yes, there are. Like 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Well, we're rectifying
and
that.
Apocalypse Now. And basically, have you seen any Vietnam films? Have you seen Full Metal Jacket?
I've seen most of Full Metal Jacket, yes.
I've seen most of Full Metal Jacket.
Yes. It was on TV once, so I missed, I think, half of it.
Oh, here's a fun fact.
I'm ready.
So you know the dancing Groot from the mid-credit scene?
Yeah.
Apparently the way they animated that was they took footage of James Gunn dancing to that song.
Yeah.
And they used that to animate Little Dancing Groot.
He did it for the first scene of Guardians 2 as well.
Did he?
Yeah, and they filmed him and then used him as a reference. But I don't know whether this is true or not, but apparently he made everyone else leave the room because he was too embarrassed. And then when they all came back in, they gave him some Play-Doh for doing a good job.
Good job. That's everything I have.
Excellent. All right, well.
Moonraker.
The greatest.
The best of the James Bond films.
Let me take you back. To 1977.
Right.
The year of the Star Wars.
Right.
James Bond had a movie that came out that year. He was very proud of it. He made it himself.
Yeah.
It was, what was it? It was The Spy Who Loved Me.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of all the Bond movies back then, they'd have a little thing at the end of the credits that said James Bond will return in, and then the title of the next movie. And at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, the credits said that James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only. But the producers spied this Star Wars. They noticed it. I just kicked the cable.
This microphone is balanced very precariously.
It's not balanced well. It's fallen over twice. I might leave it in. Anyway, the producers noticed that the Star Wars was doing alright.
The Star Wars.
The Star Wars was doing alright, wasn't it? It's
did pretty well, yeah.
not half bad. And they decided that they were going to cash in on this by putting James
By
Bond...
making a terrible film.
By putting James Bond in space.
Which they didn't really do except for like the last...
He did it for the last 15 minutes. Yeah. So, conveniently, there's a book called Moonraker about James Bond in space. I don't know if he actually goes to space in the book. I didn't look at it or read it.
It's called Moonraker.
But it's got nothing to do with space shuttles or anything. I think it's about missiles. I'm not sure. But yes, and they were like, well, we'll capitalise on that. They scrapped For Your Eyes Only, shoved it back. And they're like, right, everyone, Moonraker. We're making Moonraker. And everyone was like, okay, let's think of an excellent story. And they were like, nope. For those of you who haven't seen it, the plot of Moonraker basically goes like this.
Oh, God.
There are 6 Moonraker shuttles, and one of them gets stolen. James Bond goes to the guy who made the Moonraker shuttle. Then he breaks into his safe. He finds the top piece of paper. Yeah. He looks at it, and it's a blueprint for some hexagonal glass cylinder things. So he goes to the place where they make the hexagonal glass cylinders. There's some action scenes dotted about in here, some of which are terrible, some of which are alright.
A lot of which are terrible.
And then he goes to the glass making place. He sees a deadly contraption. And then he has a big old fight in the glass making place. And during the fight, he sees some boxes that are going to Rio. So then he goes to Rio. And there he has a big old tussle.
He saw some planes taking off.
He has a tussle in a cable car. He looks at some aeroplanes, doesn't he? And then it turns out evil things in space shuttles. It turns out it was the guy who he visited at the very beginning of the film. And Bond solves the mystery with no detective work at all. He just goes to where things were made. Yeah. It's a terrible plot. And also it turns out the main villain's plan is exactly the same as the previous movie. So basically in the previous movie, the guy wanted to blow up the world so everyone had to live underwater in his underwater houses. And this guy wants to blow up the world so that everyone can live in space.
In the space houses.
But come back from space and live on the world after he's killed everyone on it.
Yeah.
Because he's developed a drug that kills all the humans, but not the animals.
Yeah, so not plant life and
people can come down to the perfect Earth full of 7 billion corpses.
Yeah.
And start society again. Which is a terrible plan. So yeah, there's the basic terrible plot of Moonraker.
Such a bad film.
Alright, here we go. So, Will.
Hello.
The spaceships in Moonraker are just space shuttles.
Yeah.
And you know a thing or two about the space shuttle.
I do, yeah.
So, Moonraker came out in 1979. When was the first shuttle launch? Because
1981, I'm pretty sure.
The movie was before the first space shuttle launch. Alright, so the movie came out and depicted a space shuttle launch, which had never been seen before because there never had been one before.
Yeah.
And actually, they do a pretty good job.
They do a pretty good job, yeah.
The shuttle launch scene is actually one of the best scenes in the movie.
Except that shuttles launch incredibly slowly. It's kind of weird. It takes them ages to accelerate to any reasonable speed. Also, the crew board the shuttle 10 seconds before it launches.
Yeah, they just pop in.
In the actual launch, it's I don't know, I think it's more than an hour before the shuttle launches that the crew has to board.
Yeah. There's a really good scene in You Only Live Twice, right? Where there's another space-based nonsense. And Bond disguises himself as an astronaut.
Yeah.
And he's about to get into the rocket to go and sabotage this mission. And, I can't remember, but he's got a ventilator. And I can't remember which way around, but either he puts the ventilator into the rocket and then gets in, or he doesn't. And the main villain calls him out on it. He's like, that guy's not an astronaut. He wouldn't get into a rocket like still holding his ventilator or something like that, you're clearly not an astronaut. You're James Bond, famous spy.
Famous spy, yeah.
How can you be a famous
Exactly.
spy? But in this one, James Bond just sneaks into the shuttle with no problems at all. No, I really like that bit in You Only Live Twice. It's a good movie. It's not a good movie. There's a weird bit where James Bond gets loads of Japanese makeup and pretends to be Japanese.
As you do.
Yeah.
It's 3 hours, by the way.
What?
It's 3 hours before launch that the crew gets on.
3 hours?
Yeah, and they're sitting there for 3 hours.
Just for a quick trip to space?
Yeah.
How long does it take to get from Earth to space? Like,
Well, what do you mean? Like, how long did it take to get to orbit?
So in Moonraker, there's a big old space station.
Yeah.
Let's say that that's orbiting at the height of the ISS.
ISS takes a day.
To get from Earth to the ISS takes a day.
Yeah.
Good grief.
It's not, well, because you've got to... It's not like because it's far enough away.
Yeah.
You know, it's very close to Earth. It's not like a third of the distance to the moon. The moon takes 3 days. But it's more you've got to do a lot of maneuvers and things, and you've got to like wait to catch up to it and
Not
things like
crash
that.
into
Yeah.
it.
I think recently the Russians did it in like a few hours, and that was like a big thing. Like,
Yeah. So there had never been a space shuttle launch before, as I was trying to say, and then we got distracted by Japanese James Bond.
Yeah.
And the Russians again. So they decided to build some model space shuttles.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't afford to launch a real.
Just wait 3 years and then.
They made some models and they attached them to bottle rockets, which are like little fireworks basically, and also to signal flares for the little like flary bit, the big rockety bit.
The big rockety bit at the bottom, yeah.
That's the technical term.
The exhaust.
The exhaust. Yes. And so when it's taken off, there's like a smoke trail coming out of it. What they did is they filled the model with salt, poked a hole in the bottom, and the salt kind of fell out and looked like a smoke trail.
Really nice,
it looks really good. And then there was also a big old space battle wheel.
There was, yeah.
And it was amazing. It was the greatest Star Wars you've ever seen.
It was, yeah.
So basically, when James Bond gets up to the secret space station, he turns off the radar, and then immediately...
Apparently nobody notices that.
Immediately, the US people, like a whole army of space marine type guys, get in a space shuttle, launch, and just are there within like
a few minutes.
Yeah. And that scene holds the world record for having the most zero gravity wires in one scene, because they just had so many guys.
What was it you were saying earlier that it also won an award for?
It holds the world record for the most sugar glass broken in one scene. Because when Bond goes, there's a really weird scene where he's at that museum and there's like a really lovely dish, and someone's like, couldn't someone just take it? And the woman's like, I don't think so, and reaches out her hand, and then there's like a small beeping noise. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
and everyone's like, she's like, I don't think any criminals will be taking this, and everyone laughs as if it's laughable that someone could just pick it up
and cope with a slight beeping noise for a few minutes.
Yeah. It's just a nonsense. So yes, there's a nice glass museum, and basically Bond gets beaten up by someone, or he beats up someone, or I think he throws them into a piano at the end. But yes, they destroy every single piece of glass in that museum. Yeah. Probably. All right, what else have I got about this? Okay, so this is back in the day, pre-computers, Will. There's no CGI here. None of your digital trickery. So back in the pre-computer day, that's what I was trying to say. What they do for some of the effects is they'd film one element of it, and then they'd rewind the film in the camera, and then shoot something else, and they'd be superimposed on the same bit of film.
Right.
So for some of these shots with the space battle, some of the big shots, they had to do that 40 times for like different elements going in, which is just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You'd spend like a day working on a 10-second section of film.
Filming it 40 times.
Yeah, setting up one bit, filming that, pulling it down, rewinding, setting up the next bit, filming it again.
It's a shame they put such effort into such a terrible film.
It really is. Yeah. It's not even a good scene, though.
It's not, no.
There's a better scene in Thunderball, which is basically the same, but it's underwater. And they all have, like, harpoon guns, and that's a really good scene. Even though it's 10 years older than this, and not in space. Because, well, you can't just set something in space and expect it to be good. You have to make something good and then set it in space.
Yeah, yeah.
Apparently Sharknado 5 might be set in space.
Oh.
And apparently Fast and Furious, they're trying to get them into space somehow.
Well, that's just getting gradually more crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but there have been rumours.
There's just going to be a massive jump, and they'll jump the cars into space.
I'm calling the moon calling some villain will be on the moon.
Probably, yeah.
But like the last 4 films have been about hacking.
They're gonna hack the moon.
Oh my goodness, they're hacking
Someone's
the moon.
hacking the moon. He's trying to take it out of orbit.
Quick, get the counter hackers.
You can only counter hack from the moon itself. You have to get there.
Dom Sereno, you're gonna have to drive up this massive ramp. He's just there for 3 days.
Yeah.
I've just got this picture of Vin Diesel sitting in his Dodge Charger, wearing a spacesuit, doing a really serious expression, ready for the jump.
Yep.
There we go. Anyway, what else have they got on this? Apparently, they took the model of the space station, and at the end it explodes.
Yeah.
And for that destruction, they locked themselves in a room, apparently, with the model and a load of shotguns. And just shot it to pieces.
That's great. If that's true, that's great.
That's amazing. I think they would have like shot that and then overlaid some explosions and other stuff as well. But you can kind of see behind the explosions that it kind of splinters into pieces. So I think it might be true.
Yeah.
What else have I got for you? The space station set. There's like a 3-tiered set. I don't know why this makes me laugh. It was the biggest set in all of France. The biggest one constructed in France. There was some...
They decided on the size of the set, and then they looked at what countries had a set that big, and they built it there.
But yes, it was built by loads of people, and there were loads of terrible statistics about how many tons of nails they used to build it, which were deathly boring. So I didn't write them down.
Good job.
But it was built by 220 technicians, Will. Although, to be fair, the number of people building it doesn't indicate how big it is. Because you could have 220 people, like, peeling an orange. It would just be done really fast and be really squished.
No, I reckon if you had 220 people peeling an orange, it would take ages. Because they'd all be getting in each other's way.
I reckon, like, at least 100 of them would just sit at the back and be like,
Probably,
we don't need to do anything, but we're still getting paid.
Yeah.
And 120 of them would be really zealous. Would be like, give me some peel! I need to prove I've done a job! I don't know why I jumped to peeling an orange. It's like one of the few things like you don't get paid for.
Typical menial task, I guess.
Yeah, it's not exactly building a space station. Not building the biggest set in all of France. So the main villain, he gets ejected from the space station.
He does, yeah.
But basically to do that, they filmed it, so they tipped the set over. Yeah. They pushed over the biggest set in all of France.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. They put the camera beneath the door, so the door was above the camera. And then they pulled the actor 50 feet into the air.
Joe.
Well?
Why is the Moonraker called Moonraker?
I was really hoping you would ask. Because I googled that exact question. And I don't know. I have no idea. If I'd read the book, maybe I'd know.
So even if I have no idea how Battlestar Galactica got its name, I still win.
You win the who can know why things are named.
Why their ships are named that.
Yep. I'm sorry, Will. I feel I've let you down.
Tell me.
Yes, okay, so anything else you want to know about Moonraker? Any comments you want to make?
Why is it such a bad film?
Apparently it did really well, though, at the time. I think the effects were fairly cutting edge, and no one had seen a space shuttle before. Also, it had Jaws returning. So Jaws is the best henchman.
But Jaws' plotline in that film is just...
Apparently, I found the reason why. Basically, because a whole load of kids saw The Spy Who Loved Me.
Yeah.
And all these kids really liked him. But they were like, why couldn't he be a good guy? I do like, one of the best moments in that film, though, is when Bond... He kind of talks Jaws around, but without doing it directly.
Yeah.
He's like, Drax, so all the people in your new world are going to be perfect people, not 7-foot-tall, weird, giant people with metal mouths, right? And Drax is like, yes. Jaws, do my bidding. And then Jaws is like, he makes a decision. He has a character development.
He does. That's true.
Before we wrap up, I want to tell you some alternate titles from around the world.
Right.
Because Moonraker isn't very self-explanatory. So,
as we've established.
The foreign language titles, these are translated back from what they would have been in that language. So in Finland, it was called Moon Rocket.
Yeah,
right,
that makes more sense.
In Italy, it was called Moonraker, Operation Space.
Okay. I like how it's the same as the English one, but they just added something on.
In China, it was called 007 Seizes the Space Station. And my personal favourite.
007 seizes the space station.
And my personal favourite from Brazil.
Yeah.
007 against the death rocket.
No, I prefer seizes the space station.
Alright, you're up. Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah. I have many facts.
So, okay. Background.
Yeah.
I know nothing about Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I watched my first episode of Battlestar Galactica just before
Like
we started
2 hours
recording.
ago, yeah.
Yeah. So you'll have to fill me in on a lot of stuff. Do you want to tell our good listeners, sum it up in like 1 minute?
Right. So, there's some people, and they live on 12 colonies, right?
Yep.
They were at war, ages ago. They created some robots, called the Cylons, who rebel against them, as robots always do.
As they always do.
And they have a war, and they eventually sign a treaty. And then this is many, many years later, after that war.
Yep.
And the Cylons suddenly attack them, and they very, very quickly destroy pretty much everything. And there's one, the sort of main battleships that they have are called battle stars, and each one of the 12 colonies has one of those. And there's one called the Galactica, which is the oldest one, which means that during the first Cylon War they used very basic technology, so the Cylons couldn't hack them.
Yep.
And that's why the Galactica survives, because it still has that old style technology, so the Cylons can't hack it.
Yep.
It escapes, and it sort of gradually gathers a sort of civilian fleet of surviving vessels around it. And it's about them going off and doing things.
Alright, there you go.
And specifically, they're looking for a new home. There's rumours of a planet called Earth, where they can live.
Nah, it's all a nonsense.
Yeah.
Alright, that was a good pitch. How many series? 3?
4.
4. I'd much rather watch a TV show that's only 4, as opposed to one that's like 8 series long or 10 series long.
Also, we didn't really say much about the space shuttles in Moonraker.
Well, there were space shuttles in Moonraker.
I didn't get my pinked fact in. Anyway,
Let's seamlessly go back to them. Anyway, Will, the Battlestar Galactica doesn't look anything like a space shuttle. Did I mention that in Moonraker the space shuttles are called Moonraker shuttles? And the guy only steals one at the beginning because he broke one and couldn't be bothered to fix it. Which means that if he hadn't been incompetent, the entire world would have been destroyed.
Yeah.
Were the space shuttles all white in Moonraker?
I think so.
Wow, if only there was an amazing fact that someone could slot in about why they were white.
Well, Joe, for the first 2 launches,
Yes.
NASA decided to paint the external fuel tank white.
Right.
Because they thought it looked better. Then they decided that the paint weighed too much,
Yep.
so they didn't paint it anymore, and they just left it the natural orange colour.
Well, there you are.
That's a fun fact.
That is a very fun... It's very convenient that on this completely random segue that I went on to, you had a fact perfectly suited to it.
I've definitely never mentioned to you before.
I mean, it was completely new to me. As I heard it, I was just thinking to myself,
What a new fact.
what a novel experience this is. How much I love learning. This podcast truly is edutaining.
And really professionally done.
Yep.
Battlestar Galactica.
Sorry. So, what do you want to tell me about it?
Well, so one of the writers on it
Yes.
was also one of the writers on Star Trek. This was a guy called Ron Moore. And he was saying how he really liked Star Trek, but it was sort of too clean.
Yeah.
And everything was a bit too perfect. So he kind of wanted to do something that was a bit more gritty and also a bit more grounded in reality. So, for example, in Battlestar Galactica, they tend to avoid... They don't completely remove the noise in space, but they kind of dull it.
Yeah.
And they kind of want it to give the impression that you're only hearing stuff because you yourself are in a ship and you're hearing it kind of through the walls and things.
Gotcha, yeah.
And there's even a quote from him that I have here, which I shall read out verbatim.
This is a new, exciting thing.
He says, "I think we should do away with lasers and we should have rocket engines on our ships. Not just glowing engines that push them along somehow magically. When we fire a missile, you should have the missile trail behind it." So he's basically saying he wants to make it a bit more grounded in reality.
Like what it would actually be.
Yeah.
That's cool. So, Star Trek, we generally follow, like, the main command, don't we? And the people in charge of everything.
Yeah.
But in Battlestar Galactica, in the one episode I saw, you followed some, just like people on the ground, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously so it's kind of strange that the commander of the ship. His rank is commander.
Yep.
And there's a rank called captain, which is lower down.
Yeah.
So, yeah, obviously the commander of the ship is kind of a main character.
Yeah.
But there are loads of, like... They're kind of... You could call them support characters, but really they're main characters in their own way.
Do they ever encounter any aliens?
No. And the guy who played the commander,
Yeah.
Edward James Olmos, he even had a clause in his contract saying they wouldn't put aliens or strange monsters in because he wanted to keep it focused on like human drama.
Okay.
Which is kind of similar to what the writer was saying.
Yeah, so it didn't become like a Doctor Who Monster of the Week kind of thing. Yeah. No, that makes sense. I like that.
It's like you were saying, you can't make something good just by putting something in space. You have to write something good and then put it in space.
Yeah. So Battlestar Galactica could have worked on like a battleship on Earth.
Yeah, exactly.
But it just happens
to be in space. Yeah.
No, that's good. I like that. That makes sense.
And while we're on the subject of Edward James Olmos, they considered Harrison Ford to play Commander Adama in Battlestar Galactica. Yeah.
Do you think that would have worked?
So Commander Adama is kind of like a father figure to the crew, but he's also like he's still very professional.
Yeah.
So Harrison Ford's characters tend to be a bit more like roguish.
Yes.
So it wouldn't have really worked, I think.
I also think Harrison Ford is one of those actors that if I see him in a movie, I don't think of him as the character. I don't remember the character's name. I just see him as Harrison Ford.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, like, in the last 3 Tom Cruise movies I've seen, I couldn't tell you any of the characters' names. It's just Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise, yeah.
So yeah, I do think it's better when movies have unknowns in. So, or not necessarily movies, but things that are more character driven, where you have someone who you don't know who it is, because then you can identify them with that character.
It's the character, not the actor. Yeah. So the one that I'm talking about is the reimagined Battlestar Galactica, kind of the reboot. The original from the 70s used all models for everything. This was a lot of CGI, but they still had a few models, and so the Battlestar Galactica is basically an aircraft carrier in space.
Yep.
So the little ships that it launches, they would build full-size models of those so they could have them sort of standing around. And some of them they would sort of put on a crane if they were having like take off. Instead of doing that CGI, they'd put one of the models on a crane and lift it up.
Okay.
Things like that.
Yeah.
The camera work, you might have noticed that the camera work is kind of aimed to look kind of like a documentary style.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's handheld. There's a lot of like zooming.
That's sort of what they were going for. They wanted it to kind of as if you were sort of following the crew around with some stuff, and they kind of try and do that even with like the CGI shots of the space battles, and so there's stuff going like out of focus and moving around very quickly.
Yeah, I think sometimes that works well. Sometimes it can be annoying.
I think generally it works. There's a couple of times when it's too much.
Yeah.
But usually I think it works well here.
Yeah. So how many different kinds of smaller ships are there?
There's like 3 main ones.
Because I heard Raptor and Viper.
Raptor and Viper, they're like the 2 that the Galactica has.
Okay.
The Viper's basically a fighter.
Yep.
The Raptor's kind of like a bomber / support thing with like very long range sensors and things, and that also has faster than light capabilities.
Yep.
And there's also the Raider, which is the one the Cylons have.
Okay.
There's more Blade Runner tie-ins.
Good grief.
Which is
it's almost as if we should do an entire episode.
It's almost as if we
dedicated
should do
to
a Blade Runner episode.
Episode 7.
The Cylons that look like humans.
Yep.
Are referred to as skin jobs, which is the same as the replicants are referred to in Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
That's a good fact.
More sort of like gritty realism stuff.
Yeah.
Most of the weapons that they use were real modern firearms.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, you know, the like, it looks like quite old style technology. Like they have the big handset receivers and things. The one of those that they have on the bridge was an old US Army telephone from the Korean War.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
They have. I quite like the look of it. It's like in space with a spaceship, but the whole idea is it's kind of using older style technology.
Yeah.
So they have like sleek spaceships and things, and then they've got these big handheld receivers and things like that. And they're still like, when they're doing navigation, they get like paper maps out and they have like plot things. That's really nice. Oh, random nonsense fact.
Go on.
All the like paper documents and things that they have in the film.
Yeah.
They have like the corners cut off.
Yes, I noticed that.
Apparently, that's because before the main Battlestar Galactica series, they did like a pilot miniseries, and apparently because they were given so little money for that, they had to cut corners in the production, and so as a reference to that, they cut all the corners off the documents.
Oh, that's great! Oh, that's very good. I like that. So the episode we just watched, there's another Battlestar in it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, we're just going back to talking about the old tech. Is it because the Battlestar Galactica is the oldest of the fleet that it has all this, like the massive phones and all that sort of thing, the paper maps?
No, the modern one, the modern one still has that kind of stuff, but it's more modern. But like that, our commander of that ship still had this big handset telephone and thing. I think that's like a general theme.
Yeah. It reminds me of the Nostromo, actually.
Yeah.
The way that it's
gritty and dirty and...
It's more like what it would be, like the inside of a submarine.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being the sleek and or white and
sleek and pristine, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, like in the first episode of this, the Battlestar Galactica is in the middle of being decommissioned.
Oh, really?
That's when the attack happens.
Yeah.
So it's like it has like 2 fighter launch bays.
Yeah.
But they can't use one of them because it was like completely converted into like a museum, basically.
Okay. Just thinking in Star Wars that they don't have any ships like that, do they?
No, they don't have any like aircraft carriers type things.
All of theirs is kind of small fighters.
And the Star Destroyers have fighters on board.
Well, I was thinking more of like the heroes, because the villains, they obviously have the Death Stars as space station, and they can launch stuff from the Star Destroyers. But the good guys don't really have anything big, do they?
No, they have like in like the battle against the second Death Star, they do. But there's not that many. They have like one big ship.
Yeah, and there's one in Rogue One as well.
Yeah, and that's really all the Battlestar Galactica stuff I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you recommend it to people?
Yes.
You say watch it, all of it?
Yes, watch all of it. It's really good.
All right. I'll yes, will. I'll do as I'm told. Then we'll do a proper Battlestar Galactica fueled episode one day.
Good.
When we've run out of movies.
Yeah.
We've done all the movies. I think it'd be good to do TV shows every now and then.
Yeah.
To dip in and out and do something a bit different. I like the idea of not just sticking with one specific thing.
Yeah.
Even though we've kind of just done sci-fi movies.
Yeah.
Right, what next? Or are we done?
We've done all 4 of the things.
We have. All right.
We have our outro sections.
All right. I didn't think we were going to do those. I thought we were going to do something a bit different.
Like what?
Right. If you were forced to live in one of these universes, which one would you go to? You have to go in the time of the movie. That's like the setting of the movie, and you have to live on the main space station or spacecraft.
So probably, it's kind of hard to compare TV series and movies, obviously.
Yeah.
But I actually, of these 4, my favourite is Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah?
Even over Star Wars.
Okay.
I really like Battlestar Galactica, but I wouldn't want to live there.
True.
Because like the whole point is it's like there's like a few thousand humans left. That's about it.
Yeah. And you're constantly paranoid.
You're constantly under attack and things like that. So I wouldn't want to live there. Guardians of the Galaxy. The thing is, Guardians of the Galaxy, it's the whole like galaxy.
Yeah. But you are
where would you be in?
You're forced to be a crewmate on the ship.
Oh.
Peter Quill buys you.
So you'd basically just be their lackey. They'd be like the big hero people, and you'll just be like there
carrying the bags.
No, I wouldn't want to do that. Well, I mean, it depends, because you'll still get to like do some awesome things occasionally, I guess.
Rocket would probably give you like a gun.
Right. Star Wars. What would you be in Star Wars?
You'd be on the Falcon.
Just again, like just some crew.
Yeah, you'd be.
Dude.
Han Solo would.
Your Han Solo's lackey.
Yeah. Your choose
and
pet.
Moonraker. What would you be?
You live on the space station.
Oh,
you're one of the techies on the space station.
And so you die in the end. You immediately die. Yeah. Welp.
You'd be on the biggest set in all of France for a bit, and then you'd be killed.
So I would probably... Jennifer Lawrence isn't in any of them, is she?
No, sadly not.
Probably have to be Guardians of the Galaxy then.
Do you think Jennifer Lawrence is more likely to pop up in the Bond franchise, the Star Wars franchise?
She just said she wants to be in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Really? All right, then that's your best bet.
So that's the next bet.
I don't know what I'd take. I don't want to live on the Falcon. Compared to all the other ships, it looks horrible. It's good because it's fast.
The fastest hunk of junk in the galaxy, Joe.
Yeah, but it's a hunk of junk. You have to live on that, well.
The Milano does get destroyed in both Guardians films.
Yeah, I think it's Moonraker.
He would just die straight away.
It's better than the alternatives. No, I think it probably is the Falcon. Although, the universe I'd most like to live in, it's probably the Marvel universe. I'd take that over the Bond or the Star Wars universe. Because if I lived in the Star Wars universe, right, like the special people are the Jedi,
Yeah.
and I'd just be a regular guy.
Yeah.
I'd have no chance of ever getting those powers unless I was like blind and then I like trained for like 40 years.
Yeah.
I'd be slightly sensitive to it, but I'm never going to be a Jedi. But in the Marvel universe, conceivably someone could die near me with a really cool bit of kit, and I could take it from them, and then just be a superhero. So like Falcon just falls out of the sky, I could just take his wings and be the Falcon. So I feel like.
So what are you going for?
And in the Bond franchise, basically, you're either a nobody or you work for a villain, and Bond just punches you and then blows up your house.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm taking Guardians. I'm gonna live in the Marvel universe.
Right. We both decided on Guardians.
Awesome. We can be a sweet team.
Yeah.
Although when someone inevitably crashes, then we have to fight over their tech. And one of us gets to be the hero and the other the sidekick.
Yeah, the useless sidekick. Yeah.
I think we should rank the spaceships.
Rank the spaceships?
Yeah.
On what criteria?
The best to the worst. I don't know.
Which would win in a fight?
Oh.
The Galactica would win in a fight. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
The Galactica would win in a fight.
It would blow up the Moonraker space shuttle immediately. The Moonraker space shuttle would just fall over.
Because the Galactica has big ship with big guns and small little maneuverable fighters as well.
So the Falcon has evaded Star Destroyers before, but it's never taken one out. There's no chance of that.
Yeah.
Unless there's like an exhaust port in the top. I think the Milano versus the Falcon would be a close fight.
Milano versus Falcon would be close.
Yeah. But the Moonraker shuttle doesn't. It does have a laser on the front.
It does have a tiny little laser on the front.
Yep.
That would lose.
So what would happen is they'd all like bump into each other at a space crossroads.
Yeah.
There'd be like a space roundabout.
Yeah.
And no one would want to go. Then there'd be like a weird standoff. Then, like the Moonraker shuttle, James Bond flying the Moonraker shuttle would be like, I know how to solve this. And he'd fire one laser at whoever was opposite him. And then everyone would open fire on him and he'd be killed immediately. Like, so on the Battlestar Galactica, you've got to get people into the ships and get the ships out.
Well, they have, like a real aircraft carrier, they have ones that are pretty much ready to go all the time.
Okay.
And they have a like constant patrol going around.
Yeah.
So they have some already there. And they have some that are ready to go, like, at a moment's notice.
Yeah. So I think the Battlestar would win.
Yeah.
But the Milano and the Falcon would be a good fight. Although, I feel like I should say the Falcon would win. But then I also feel like that's just because people like it more. What does the Milano have?
There's many guns on the front.
Yeah.
Remember, that, along with other similar ships, blows a hole in the ship.
Yes, it does.
It's kind of hard to say between the Falcon and the Milano.
Yeah. I feel like the Falcon can take more of a beating.
Probably, yeah.
Given how many times
the Milano has been destroyed.
Yeah. I'm calling Falcon though.
I tend to agree, yeah.
I think Solo's a better pilot than Star-Lord.
And yes, well, Chewie's the better pilot, as we discussed.
Yeah. I think we should do this at the end of every special. We should just do a fight between all the specials.
Yeah.
Alright. I think we did it well.
The best section.
Is it illegal for us to do an episode without Jennifer Lawrence?
It's illegal, yeah.
Alright, so I don't understand how we're going to do this.
We have to put her in all four.
Alright.
Moonraker. Let's start off with the worst one.
Well, there's just a scientist who does nothing.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, I'm an expert at space shuttles. And then she doesn't do anything.
She doesn't do anything, yeah.
I don't think she does.
Doesn't she?
There's also that weird centrifuge scene that we didn't talk about.
Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that, did we?
Yeah, let's just not talk about it.
There are no spaceships in that scene.
No. It's funny, but not in a good way.
It's not trying to be funny.
It's the kind of Bond movie you could watch with your kid.
Yeah.
If it's the nonsense.
Just nonsense.
Lots of bright lights and
the
shooting and
very flashy.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, Jennifer Lawrence.
Jennifer Lawrence.
She's terrible scientist on the Moonraker. Who would she be in Battlestar Galactica?
I don't know. There's like a pilot. She was in the episode you saw. I don't know if you remember the like blonde-haired pilot.
Is it Starbuck?
Yeah.
Yes.
It could be her. She's a fairly main character.
It's the only character I know the name of.
Yeah, that would work.
That would work. She could do that. All right. That's 2 down.
There's 2.
Guardians? She could be Groot.
Do the voice.
Yeah.
Okay, just because I think that would be hilarious.
Alright, that was easy.
3.
Who are we missing? Star Wars.
Star Wars.
I think Leia's the obvious choice.
Leia's the only choice.
Yeah.
There are no other female characters.
Or Rey, if we're going for episode 7.
Oh, if we're going for episode 7, then yeah.
But Leia or Rey?
I don't like the character of Rey.
No?
No.
As we discussed,
Too much of a Mary Sue.
Rey should have been played by Ray Winston.
Yeah, as we discussed.
I would love to see a movie with Harrison Ford and Ray Winston just driving around a spaceship, being grumpy for 2 hours.
This has to be Leia. It's the only option.
Yep.
Oh, there we go.
Well,
What?
Admiral Akbar.
Akbar. I like how we're okay with turning male characters into female ones as long as they're aliens.
Yeah.
Like, somehow it doesn't matter as long as they're an alien.
My job during this segment is just to think of the weirdest character in the universe so that I can give it to you to play Jennifer Lawrence. No, not to play Jennifer Lawrence. For Jennifer Lawrence to play.
Lawrence.
Yeah.
I think that's the quickest we've ever done this section.
That is. That's remarkable.
It's remarkable because we've got the most films to do.
Do you think that if there was like a 4-way battle, all the Jennifer Lawrences would be able to come to like a peace treaty?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so.
Should we wrap up?
I think we're done.
I think so.
So, thank you for listening to our Practically Effective podcast and joining us with our delicious biscuit eating segment, which hopefully will become a regular segment in future podcasts. There's like, how many are there left?
There's one left.
One left.
Oh,
Do you want
no.
it? You got donuts as well.
Oh, we have donuts as well. Oh, what? We have to save them for next episode.
You can contact us at PracticallyFX on the Twitter, Practically Effective on the Facebook, and if you're strange and want to email us, we have practicallyeffective@gmail.com.
One day someone's going to email us. We're like, Will, why do you insult me so?
I don't get why you would use email. We have the Twitter and the Facebook.
I hope that... Okay, if you email us, you have to justify in the subject line
Yeah, you have to
why
tell
you've
us why
emailed.
you've emailed us.
Otherwise, Will not read
I
us.
won't respond.
Oh, dear, Will. In 1 week, we release these.
We do.
We'd send them out into the world.
We do, yeah.
I don't think anyone's going to get to the end. If you got here to the end of our 4th episode, you're my
Well
favourite
done.
person.
Have a biscuit.
Yeah, you deserve one. Have one on us. You've wrapped up and we're just still talking.
I have.
We should just say goodbye.
Goodbye.